Hi there, it's Polly here. Yay! Mm, with more unicorn juice. So, um, one of my viewers actually asked my opinion of a set of rules, which I hadn't seen, so I went and got the things. Um, and I don't regret it. And it's actually been a delight. This is Age of Hannibal. This is a set of miniatures rules, and it's very specifically designed for small scale figures, so 6 mil or maybe even 2 mil. Not that fond of 2 mil. It's kind of hard to tell what I'm looking at, but 6 mil, I love 6 mil because you're panoramic kind of helicopter view of a battlefield. But I think the extra delight from these is this is actually clearly a club's set of rules. I made that fairly clear as you're reading it. This is our club set of rules. It's just what we cooked up to play these games he wanted to do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's what wargaming is all about. I started playing in the 70s with little sets of rules that had been produced by wargames clubs, things like the London Wargames Club and so on, did things like a triremes and galleys set of rules, which we would play. But you'd also get these lovely little things. And essentially, two guys who've got a fixation and they're playing something, and they go along to a little club and they play, and a couple of other people sidle up and say, "Hey, what you doing?" Oh, well, Barry's just done these rules, which we've got written out on some on some old foolscap sheets. That's good. Hey, can I play? Sure. Hang on, we'll just net to press these off for you. Yeah, eventually they had to type them out, and you get these little rule sets. And I think a lot of clubs and so on should go back to making club sets. This is what our group likes playing. This is what we've done. But forget competition mentality. Make what your group likes, and maybe publish them so you put some work and love in it so you can share the love, and if other people like what you've done, then fantastic, it spreads. Age of Hannibal. So one minor thing, it's ring bound. Fantastic, because when I have to refer to a chart, I'm not breaking the spine. Thank you. So it's a game designed for 6 mil. They are saying, of course, you can take whatever damn fool size of bases that you want. So whatever you've already got, you can use. If you've got 6 mil DBM or whatever. But what are they after? I think it's a 2-inch square base, 2-inch by 2-inch, or 40 mil by 40 mil. So a square base, and it doesn't really matter how many miniatures you've got on it. 6 mil are designed to look good. So if you've got Roman legions, yeah, put a couple of ranks of Roman legions. Fantastic. If it's warband, yeah, put a massive warband going forward, put a swarm of chariots, whatever. Now, these are very specifically designed for, clearly they are playing Punic, Second Punic Wars. They're playing, they're playing the wars of Hannibal, which means that they therefore have also had to cover Macedonians and some of the later Macedonian successors and so on. So that general kind of period, the sort of 3rd century BC kind of Geist, is what these are. So you can play Republican Romans, and you can play Spanish and Gauls and Carthaginians and Ptolemaics and Seleucids and Macedonians and Pergamenes and etc. You can do all that very well in these rules. They have a website which has some army guidelines and lists. They're not like rigid on lists. They just say these are what the troops would be like, and this is what the mix should be like for this army, which is really nice. And that's just up there on their website for free. And the website is Little Warriors TV. Yeah, I downloaded it. Now, another thing they've got up there for free download is an entire campaign and campaign system they've done for Second Punic War. So, they've got all the maps, they've got all the campaign rules, they've got the whole thing there just as a free download, and a whole bunch of game scenarios. So, again, thank you, Gamers. I like these guys. Look, I have actually played some American Civil War rules that they did, which were again obviously a club set of rules. I personally wasn't that fond of that set because I felt it was a little kind of colourless. These, on the other hand, I think they're a splendid job. So the basic principles: a unit is rated for essentially its combat and its morale. You're given certain special things as well. So Yeah, you get so you get your written down factors are movement, combat. Now combat is rolled on a D8, which is sort of interesting. So you get a bonus to a D8 roll. You get a rally number and special notes, like these guys are armed with bows, these guys are armed with javelins, these guys have got slings, etc. And there are some special characteristics you can have attached to units. This unit can be tribal. This unit can be feared. This unit can be like a fearsome thing is like elephants, obviously. Tribal guys, Gallic warriors or whatever, they can be ferocious, like Celtic fanatics and so on, which get a huge bonus when they attack, etc., etc. You get all the veterans and elite and all this sort of thing. Right, so as units take damage, they take a demoralization, which can be like either just a chit you put behind it, or you can put little figures behind it showing wounded and dead guys. If it gets one demoralization on it, it's not allowed to close with enemy troops. If it gets two demoralizations on it, it must immediately recoil one base depth, and it can't move into enemy troops. On its third demoralization, the unit routes, it's gone. You can rally troops and use that rally value to try and repair and remove these demoralization counters. Demoralization counters count as a negative dice roll modifier on stuff like combat, and also for rallying. The more demoralized you are, the harder it is to come back from it. It's a relatively simple game to play, but they have a couple of really interesting mechanisms, and one of these is the morale clock. And I think that's actually the thing that makes this game rather brilliant, that clock. So you have a clock, starts at 12, ding, and when you get units that are destroyed or demoralized, the clock goes down, 11, 12, 10, etc. That clock is the number of orders that you can issue during your turn. You can either order and move individual units, or, as in so many of these element-based games, you can move blocks that you have in side-to-side contact with each other as a single unit off a single order. The morale clock, I really like this mechanism. So what happens with it is, as you take damage to units, as you get units that are demoralized, your clock counts down. You can issue orders to a number of units depending on the rating of your clock. So you start off at 12, but two guys get demoralized or destroyed, or you lose more points, I think, if they're destroyed. But the number of troops that you can give orders to diminish as chaos starts to reign, and people are injured and stressed and no one's listening and messengers aren't getting through because there's like dust and clouds and dead guys and what I step in. So that's a great idea. There's also things where when it gets down to the last four, a percentage of your army now gets demoralization on it. You can then try and rally it, and you can use officers to try and rally it, but at the start of each turn, when your clock is really low, everything is really starting to go to pieces. And the designer's notes say this comes because, as they've read battles, as there seems to be a trigger point where ancient armies just go to pieces all of a sudden. It's like literally a dam breaking. And yeah, it's a good simulation of that panic moment. It's really well done. Some of the tribal armies and so on that are ferocious and all this kind of jazz too, they start losing a lot of their ferocity abilities and so on when their clock gets low, because these guys are starting to lose motivation, which is also a really nice simulation of some of those kind of tribal, Gallic, Galatian, ancient Britain kind of sort. So a really good mechanism. Cheers, guys. Really, the morale clock, that is the unique piece of design in this game, which I really think makes it shine. Generals are individual characters in the game. Now, you can either attach a general to a unit, or you can keep it back. If it stays back, it can issue orders to units, and it can make some units move for free. If it is attached to a unit, it can add to that unit's combat power, but at some personal risk. Fair enough. And it can also move the unit it's attached to sort of as a free order. Fair enough. Fantastic. They've got a lovely chart for generating generals. It's always done randomly. They say an army has a general, and you may have one or more lieutenants that are your assistants. You randomly generate a personality for this character, each of them. These guys could be stoic, they could be drunkards, they could be rash, they could be very, very personally combative, so that they get an extra bonus to the troops, but they take extra danger every time they do it. It's actually it's a nice system. Now, normally you just, I'm buying a hyper super expert. No, you don't get to do that. You roll on this, and even having the guy drunk or whatever can be. Oh, what is it? Well, it's he's not that good at issuing extra orders, but the man knows no fear. Usually because he's sitting on his horse backwards. But it's nice. It puts some real personality into the armies. They have a lovely pre-battle system. You've got a substantial number of cards. Now these cards are reproduced in here. So they've got fronts and backs that you can do. You can also download those again from their site. They don't actually sell a hard copy, but print and paste. Now, they have a pre-game session because, as they say, everyone goes into battle with a plan. No one just kind of squares up and just does stuff. And that might be a stupid plan, but it's still your plan. So what you do is each battlefield is divided into essentially 1 foot squares. So they say if you're playing on a 6x4 table, which is pretty common, you'll have 4 sectors deep and 6 wide. You have 24 sectors. So each player is given 9 cards, which come at random, and these have different types of terrain on them. Now you can stack those decks to represent different types of terrain that you are on. If you are in a wooded mountainous area of you're attacking the Helvetican tribes or whatever, obviously woods, valleys, steep hills, rocky ridges and so on are going to be stacked in there. If you're out in the deserts, you're wandering around Libya, okay, well obviously we might stack these with sand dunes and so on, rather than huge marshes and mighty rivers, etc. You can do all of this. Now you take sort of in turns and you play down cards into these sectors. Any sectors that don't have cards in them are clear. Many of these cards are also clear. You can also put 2 cards into one area if they complement each other. So you can have a hill and you can have woods. Good, it's a wooded hill, obviously. There's a few rules, like if you've got a watercourse, it has to, if it's a big river, it has to go along one of the sides. If it's like if you put a stream along a board, it has to, you actually make it exit along, and there are fords in each 1 foot square. There is a ford, etc., etc. So but you're kind of making the battlefield between you. Turn these things over. Good. Put your terrain down and get going. Okay, so it's a pretty simple game. When you fire, there's a chart that you roll on, and it will usually give you demoralization applied to the other guy, a chance of demoralization. But there's no outright kills, not from firing. In combat, you both bash up against each other. There are tactical factors like, are you outflanking or overlapping the other guy, etc., etc., etc. But you roll a d8, you add in your base for the unit, so hand weapons, which is like swords and so on, and you could be pikes, could be spears. They've got all sorts of different base types that they put in there. Effectively, you're rolling, both rolling against each other, and your end results are demoralize the other guy by 1 or sometimes even 2 levels and push him back. Impetuous troops and so on will automatically kind of follow up, but you can choose to follow up if you want, or you could just let that disrupt the battle line, so it's hard for him to side support his troops and all this kind of jazz. If you roll and your total is double the other guy's, then your opponent is destroyed. You remove that piece off the battlefield. So decisive action, it's only from hand to hand. But on the other hand, if you were something like Indian and used to, massed bowfire and so on, you might be able to literally put demoralizations on guys so he can't close on you because you've demoralized him. And now you can start trying to whittle a little bugger away by, so for once, Indian armies might actually work, since they clearly did work. Now, another thing that I do really like about these rules is there's a set of siege rules in the actual rules, which is fantastic. It's kind of designed, again, with that Second Punic War in mind. There's a lot of forts and protected places and so on, sometimes cities and so on, but more often like protected towns and this sort of thing. But it's in here as a very clear extension of the rules, not having to attach 400 million extra rules in to get it. So essentially, since you buy armies as points, you spend points on fortifications and you can spend points on specific siege tools. So there's strips of walls, which cost you some points. There are towers. The towers aren't something that you actually break through in this game. Towers come sort of with a sort of a free garrison of a few archers. They've got like a radius around them where they can do a little kind of skirmishy fire from archers up on the wall. Fair enough. Units defend sections of wall and they defend gates. Walls and gates have damage that they can take. You can attack them with onagers and battering rams and all this kind of thing. You can also do escalade attacks with infantry and so on, and dismount cavalry and so on to do all of that. You design your little fort, you pay for it. You can put artillery pieces and all that kind of jazz up there. You also put a place in the fort which is the citadel, and it's really just a design point. If the attacker gets troops through and they move onto the citadel, that's it. The siege is over. The attackers have won. So, do you put your citadel right bang smack in the middle, or do you kind of if you've got a long, thin kind of design you've made that climbs up a hill, maybe you want to put the citadel right up the top. All these kind of choices are yours. But yeah, it's really nice to see that it's just in there as a cool thing. Also because it's designed to cover Punic Wars and Antony and Cleopatra kind of stuff and so on as well. They've got amphibious landings and so on in here as a part of it. And again, it's just an extension of the thing. Here's ships. Here's how they land. Here's how you can try and hold them off if you're trying to hold them off at the beach. Here's what happens if you use kind of artillery pieces and hit them coming in. Easy, really easy. So yeah, it's nice seeing these little bits of cool color, but again, it's nice. Like siege games can be great fun and a great chance for modeling and so on. So yeah, it's nice to see that as a unexpected extra, and that's kind of the delight I'm finding with these rules, the unexpected extras, the entire campaign system online, the maps online, sieges, amphibious stuff. It's interesting. They've catered to gamers because, again, like I said, these are club rules. These are what we needed when we played games in a club. You may need these too. You may enjoy these too. Yes, guys, I took a look at them and I did. So thank you. There's a few strange little things in this. I wasn't feeling like cavalry was wildly decisive. It's got a D8 with a bonus. Its main thing is it's got a good move on it. But it's not an arm of decision. It doesn't kind of get bonuses for obliterating people or something like DBM or DBA, where certain troop types are very vulnerable to others. It doesn't have that. And in a way, that's right. I guess when you look at the way cavalry is working at this period, they're not charging in like a bunch of maniacs. They are coming in, riding across people's front in various fast-moving shielded formations, showering javelins and seeing if they can disrupt the other guy. And if they think it looks good, then they'll try going in. Otherwise, they will stand off. So, all right, fair enough. Things that are decisive like elephants. Well, they are fearsome, so it's going to be very hard to attack them, and they get a pretty substantial bonus on their attack dice, and they get another tag which is, you know, essentially disrupt cavalry. Camels and elephants and so on do that, so they're really good for screwing up the other guy's cavalry. So fair enough. So it's a very simple game to teach and to learn. It's got a number of scenarios which have sample armies. So it's got like Battle of Issus, so you've got the Macedonian army, the Persian army, you've got Roman consular and Carthaginian armies of different types, a Belgic army, woohoo, yep, there we go, and plenty more actually on the website. It's got a points value system for picking armies, as is traditional in these things, and so you can have fun working on your army lists. There's no substantial, massive tactical differences between different types. It is how you're going to use your troops on the battlefield. So I kind of like this in that there's no looking for gimmick armies. That was the DBM trap. People were combing through looking for something that busted the rules and gave some incredible bonuses no one would think of. And you would turn up and you would find someone's got Tupi Indian. And you'd go, what? Hang on. Now, I personally have like a degree in Aztec history and so on. Tupi, that is a Eastern Coast, I think, Brazilian tribe who used two-handed clubs, and yeah, for some reason in DBM these guys are like superior bowmen, you know, who can all set up an ambush and get super extra bonuses under all these conditions or whatever, because like some researcher had them as a bugbear in his head. These don't, and as such I think yes, they're probably a better tactical game. I really like the fact that there's that free campaign. And you could obviously take that exact same system, and if you wanted to expand that out so that it's not just, you know, Western Med for Punic War, but you could do the Eastern Med and have, you know, Ptolemaics and Armenians and Seleucids and Pergamon and Galatians and the whole kit and caboodle over there as well. Yeah, you could have a whole club game. 6mm is a very cheap scale to build. They look spectacular. They're beautiful. I love 6mm. They're a fantastic thing to do. Bacchus miniatures and so on do some great ancients. You can also find some other good old Heroics and Ross, of course, are still in business, and they've got a good ancients range. Rapier Miniatures does some very interesting ones. They do Celts. They do Republican Romans and so on. I think they do Carthaginians. And they also do some wacky stuff like Sumerians, which, you know, won't fit in this, but I kind of like the idea of doing Sumerian city-states as a campaign someday. You know, donkey carts and mighty spear phalanxes. Could be fun. Anyway, now, it is, as I said, it's a set of club rules. So the writing, you know, you get it, but it's not like there's been 500 copy editors go through it. There's no spelling errors. It's laid out fine. It's great. But sometimes as I was reading, it was like, oh, there might be a niggling rules lawyer way of interpreting a point they've made, but they've always followed it with an example which shows exactly what they meant. So read the rules and read the examples. It's like, oh, okay, fair enough. I get you. It's part of the charm of the rules. Anyway, look, I think this is well worthwhile taking a look at, particularly for playing literally kind of classical ancients. You know, that whole age of, literally that Age of Hannibal, which is a very interesting one, you know, a very interesting age. Take a look. For sale in hard copy and PDF and everything, interesting piece of work. Anyway, if you've liked the reviews, by all means, like, subscribe, find me on Patreon and all that kind of jazz. Run out into the streets, hire a skywriter, whatever turns you on. I will sit here in 42 degrees heat and keep doing reviews. Cheers, everyone. Bye.